Hello and welcome, bookworms. Welcome to this week's episode of The Contented Narrative. We're looking at Sunbringer by Hannah Conner. And this has the beautiful Waterstones orange edging. So Godkiller was my favourite book of 2024. Godkiller was one of those where it's like I saw it, it was in my list for a while, I bought it, I loved it, I reviewed it. It was a phenomenal book. It was my favourite book of 2024. Honestly, hands down. So when I walked into Waterstones the other week, when I was buying the sequel to the previous book I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, and I saw this paperback, because obviously my first one's paperback, so the second one has to be paperback, as you already know. Like literally just there, I was like, right, well, I'm getting that, and I'm getting that, and I'm like, and I ended up, I think I bought 4 books that week. I'm really bad. Never take me to Waterstones. Never. Like my bank balance can't recover. But, so this is the second one. So I'm going to discuss the end of the first one. So if you have not read Godkiller, please go away and read Godkiller and then come back and watch this review and decide whether or not you want to read Sunbringer, because I don't want to give away any spoilers. So I'm going to be discussing the end of Godkiller, but I will not be discussing the end of Sunbringer, if that makes sense. So obviously this picks up where the end of Godkiller finishes, essentially. So along the lines of, we think Kissen is dead because she's taken Heseth, the fire god, and jumped into the ocean to kill Heseth, sacrificing herself for Inara and Elagast, because Elagast was going to be sacrificed for Aaron, who was the king, who was like, okay, well, I'm going to give Elagast's heart so that I can survive. So obviously, and then, you know, there's just, so it ends basically with, okay, Kissen's dead. Elagast has now decided that the king is obviously in league with the gods and is looking to bring down the whole of Midran. And Inara has realised that Skedith, the god of white lies that's attached to her, she's also realised that she has some sort of powers to be able to stop and control the voices of other gods. So it ends on a very interesting note, and this kind of picks up where it is. So what we find in this one is Aaron is now going, right, okay, I'm going to be a god. I'm not just going to be a king, I'm going to be a god. So he changes his name to Sunbringer, so everybody's worshipping him, so he's growing. And he's got that sort of like power, but it means that he needs to unite his kingdom. But his kingdom don't want to be united. So Elagast is in Lessica. And I know I'm saying a lot of words here, but Elagast is in Lessica and with Inara, and they're trying to find a way of preserving the god archives, and also making sure that the king does not take over the realm. And it's such, and like Kissen is realizing that, okay, she's a god, like she was a god killer, but also she's now realized that actually she kind of needs to be in league with some of the gods to protect the humans, and it's kind of causing her a bit of consternation. So I enjoyed this book. I didn't love it as much as Godkiller. Don't get me wrong. I didn't love it as much as Godkiller. It was a very good book, though. So I think the reason I didn't love it as much as Godkiller is because I think the reason I loved Godkiller so much is you had Inara, Kissen, and Elagast together, the 3 of them, and it was their kind of journey. And in this one, you had the 3 of them split up. And obviously you had Kissen, who was, you know, who still has not come back to Elagast and Inara by the end of the second... spoiler alert. I mean, it's not a huge spoiler. It's fine. I'm not going to say why, but it still hasn't made it back to Inara and Elagast. And then you've got Inara, who's kind of like flexing her powers and almost being like a bratty little teenager a bit. And then you also have Elagast, who's citing a rebellion in Lessica. And then you see them working hand in hand with the gods. You see them building up the rebellions. You know, that you feel the war brewing. And it was very good, and I loved the development of the characters, and I think it's called Faithbreaker is the 3rd one, so I am really looking forward to it. So it's a trilogy, so that's a good thing. It's like, I really hate when it's like an unspecified amount of books, but it's a trilogy, so the 3rd one will be the end of it. So I will, when it comes out on paperback, I'll read it and I'll review it. And I do feel like they were fleshing out the characters a bit more, but I think what was missing in the second one was the 3 of them weren't working together as a unit. Even though in the first one you had like the bickering back and forth and stuff, they worked together. In the second one, they were very separated. But it was still a very enjoyable book. I still really enjoyed it. I'm still kind of like, when I'm sat there and going, oh, so this is what Aaron's doing. Okay. And like, he, you know, and people are still like worshipping gods and all of that. So it was a very interesting and very enjoyable book. But I would say compared to the first one, it's probably not as great, but I'm still very excited to see what happens in the third book. So obviously, leave below in the comments. Leave below in the comments if you read the first one and you loved it as much as I do. Leave below in the comments, you know, what you think of the characters. If you think they work better separately, if they work better together. You know, I'm so grateful for you guys watching these videos anyway. Even if you don't leave comments, just watching them is enough for me. So thank you so much for the continued support. Remember to subscribe if you've not subscribed already, so you're alerted when a new video comes out. I mean, it comes out pretty much every Friday at 5 o'clock, so I don't even know why I say that. But thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And remember to always keep it contento.